My name is Kate. I am a technical product manager and I work in New York, so hello to my fellow New Yorkers. And I work primarily on making consumer products. So my job is to talk to people about what they love about technology and what they hate. And I was really inspired to do this webinar when I was working on a CAPA program, Girls Academy, in New York last fall. We ran the entire event using Google Docs, and we had volunteers coming in from Kappa around the East Coast as well as some other parts of the country, and they were all really interested in how we used Google Docs. So what I realized is something that I was really taking for granted in how we volunteer and even how I work here in New York is it's really second nature to me at this point. Everything I've done, I've been an advisor with our NYU chapter, and I've been involved with our New York Alum Association. Even my personal life, my most recent vacation was planned through Google Docs. So today I want to share a little bit more about like how you can get started using Google Docs to plan your next vacation with your Kappa sisters, or even to help make volunteering with Kappa a little easier. So on that note, our agenda is to talk a little bit more about what is Google Docs, how can I start using these tools. I'm going to do a really high level overview of all the different tools that make up this suite of products. And then I really want to spend time just going through examples of how I've seen it used so that you can see the actual product in action. And I want lots of questions about like how you can make this work for you or any questions you might have about getting started, including lots of examples both of how I've used it and some we'll get in actually editing some documents live as long as the software agrees with us. Um, so that said, please feel free to pipe up with questions as we go if you have any clarifications you'd like to see. So first off, what is Google Docs? Google Docs is a cloud-based document editing software. Its most obvious comparison is with Microsoft Office. So you can create something that's very similar to a Word document or an Excel document. The added benefit of it being quote unquote in the cloud is that you can more easily share these documents with other people and collaborate on them together. So because the document lives in the cloud, if I'm working on a document, I can invite other people, so 2 or 5 or even 100 different people to all be looking at the exact same document at the exact same time. Or even I can give access to other people to edit or add comments to the document as I'm working on it in real time. So you never have to worry about having multiple versions of a document or overwriting someone else's changes, or I don't know, when I was in school, I always used to have like the final version, and then I made 6 more edits to it. So I'd have like final, for real this time versions, and that all goes away with Google Docs because it keeps a history of all of the changes that were made and by who. You can always go back if there were mistakes made or if you're not happy with the newest version. But it really makes something like volunteering or writing something together a lot easier. It also means because it's hosted in a central location, you get some extra benefits in terms of you can share with one person or you can share with a whole group of people, which can make it easier to transition a volunteer role over. If you were the secretary of your alum association, you can transfer all of those documents over really easily because of the organization system that it has. And you can even specify what level of access someone can have. Can someone just look at this document? Can they make comments on it? Or can they edit it directly? So it can be really powerful. And I think it's worth looking at how it compares to Microsoft Office because there are some real upsides to Google Docs, but there's also some potential drawbacks. This is the most text-heavy slide all night, I promise. And so the big benefit of Google Docs, like I said, is being able to have multiple people simultaneously looking at and editing a document at the same time. And it's one document. You're not going to have to worry about multiple versions of a document. Obviously, because people are looking at one document all at the same time, you can have really robust commenting and collaboration. So I can give someone feedback and they can respond to me in real time, and so we can be editing a document together while not necessarily be sitting next to one another. And because of this I call it lightweight features. It's super easy to get started, and it's really easy to do something simple in Google Docs because the primary benefit is that it's easy to share and work together on something. And I'd say compared to Microsoft Office specifically, there's a caveat that Office 365 allows for some of this simultaneously editing, but my assumption here is that our Kappa alumni associations don't have the budget for Microsoft 365. So one of the big benefits of Google, of course, is that you can sign up for a personal account for free, and nonprofits can use it for free as well. So if you want to create an account for your alumni association, that's perfectly acceptable according to their terms. With Microsoft, you have one document, so you download that to your computer and you make any changes or edits to it locally. Well, then if you want to share with someone, you'd have to send it via email or some other document sharing service like Dropbox. It does have really robust features. Microsoft has been around for a really long time, so if you're going to be getting into print layouts or really want lots of track changes and things like that, you might be better off using Microsoft Word. It also has tons of templates. There are templates with Google as well, but Microsoft just has the history of many, many years of people creating content that is all there. If you need to go really deep into something like resume templates or something like that, Microsoft has tons. I think the biggest upside of Microsoft is that you don't need any type of internet connection to do work on it. So one of the big downsides of Google Docs is that for the most part, you have to be online to make changes to a document. So this idea, if I'm sharing a document with you and you and I are going back and forth, kind of breaks down if we're both not connected to the internet while we're collaborating. So Microsoft has a big advantage there. You also don't need to worry about if there's a problem with Google or if you lose the password to your email, you'll always have access to your Microsoft documents. Though
Hey,
there
I
is...
just have a quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Courtney would like to know, can you import an existing Excel spreadsheet into Google Docs and transform it into a shared user document?
You can. It's worth noting that since Google's features are a little behind Microsoft, if you have really complex, if you have something really complex formatting-wise, it might get a little funky when you're importing it, but you can. And the flip is also true. So if you have a Google Doc, you can export it as a docx or an Excel file. I'd
Fantastic.
liken
I
it...
just have one other.
Sure.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'd liken it to if you're doing a document across a Mac to a PC. Sometimes the format gets a little messed up, but it's mostly fine. I'd say that's a similar analogy.
And I just have a couple of comments from Chris here. She just said Microsoft offers cloud functionality at Hotmail, at Outlook, and with Office 365, as you had mentioned previously.
Awesome. Yeah, it's not that it doesn't exist. I'm just not as familiar with it. So I kind of made the jump from Microsoft on my computer to Google Docs. So check out Hotmail also if that is your email provider that you love.
Let's have one more question here from Catherine. She asks, can you use larger file sizes? I've been limited in the past when trying to keep up membership tracking lists updated.
You can. There's a limit in what you can store on Google Drive, and I think it's 15 gigabytes, which is very large. But there are some inherent limitations to using a browser-based editor versus something locally on your computer. So if you have a membership galley with tens of thousands of rows, it might get a little sluggish in Google Docs. I have done it. I don't have Excel on my computer, so when I've had to do things for the Alum Association and had to download big files, it all worked fine, but you might have a couple seconds delay if you're trying to, filter a list or something like that.
Awesome. That's all the questions I have for right now.
All right. So this next slide is the opposite in that there are really two steps to getting started. If you don't have an account with Google, it is your one-stop shop for everything Google. So if you have a Gmail account, that is your Google account. And if you want to be using Google Docs, you do need an account to associate it and store all of your information. So you can do that by just going to accounts.google.com. And then my favorite place to get started when thinking about Google Docs is what they call your Google Drive. And so Google Drive is essentially, it's just your hard drive in the cloud. And so whenever I'm looking for anything that I know I've done through Google Docs, this is where I go. I just start typing DR, and my browser knows that I go there 100 times a day for everything I need. And so this provides your storage for anything you're doing in Google Docs. As well, you can store other types of files in here. So if you wanted to create a folder to share photos from an event you did and give it the same permissions as people, for an alum association, you can have your notes and your photos all in one place. You can do that here. And the nice thing is this can be set up to download anything you put in the Google Drive on to your computer so that you have it available when you're not only just online, but also when you're offline. And you can get this as an app on your phone, so you can have access to all of these files across multiple computers, your phone, anywhere you have a browser. So this is really kind of the organizational layer across all of Google Drive. And super high level, there's some navigation here, and I think it might actually just be more helpful to look at a Google Drive. So shout if you guys can't see this, but this is my Google Drive. And so over here, you'll see I've got lots of folders organizing all of my favorite things. You can put some color coding in here. So obviously my Kappa folder is blue. Some fun little emojis as I was getting creative. And across the top, we've got quick access. So it actually will give you access to things you've edited recently. You can see this webinar file is one of those. And over on the left, you've got your primary navigation. So my drive is just all of my information. Computers is where all of this information is being synced. I actually don't have any. I just use it via a web browser. But then you can also do some interesting things. So you can see any files that were shared with me. So if I click on this, I have no idea what's going to show up. But seeing all sorts of things shared with me from the secretary of our alum association, all sorts of different things from, obviously Kappa is a heavy user of my Google Drive. And then you can basically sort all of these documents any way that you would be sorting things. So you can search for things, you can look for things I recently edited, you can star things. So if you want to say, I know that this will always be something I'm accessing regularly, you can star them. And there's also a trash. So if you have deleted something recently, you want to get that back, you can do that. So super high level, this is how I organize my whole life, and this is where you would get started if you want to create a new document. So when we actually want to create a document, we'll be going to Google
Kate,
Docs. Yeah.
Just before you go on, Courtney is wondering, how did you get there to Google Docs?
Here, drive.google.com is the URL that will get you to everything Google. And so if I type in drive.google.com, that is what gets me to this Google Drive main page. So you can even see that right there. And I'm logged in, so I have lots of information going on here, but if you're brand new, it'll actually prompt you to create an account.
For right
Any
now.
other questions? All right. So the first thing, we have Drive, we have our account, we're ready to go. The most common type of document that I use is a Google Doc. And Google Docs are a text document. The analogy is that it's the Microsoft Word document. It's in the cloud. And it's really good for text, right? It's good for writing a long blog post. It is good for editing collaboratively. So if you're trying to come up with the correct wording for an invitation, if you're trying to take meeting minutes, and it's really great for if you want to either share feedback on writing or, get feedback, what have you. And so the Kappa examples I could think of, I'm sure there's many more that are going to be relevant for anything, any volunteer role, but we do a lot of meeting minutes in Google Docs. Another interesting thing that we do in New York is we'll have paper meetings. So the idea behind this is that we all have Google Docs, and so we all, on a particular day, will take time to create an update, but we don't need to coordinate our schedules and all get in the same place in order to share our updates, and we will assign each other things to do or share feedback on ideas that we have. So we're able to communicate kind of all within the same 24-hour period, but not necessarily all be in the same place at the same time, because that's difficult for our schedules. So we can take a look at a couple Google Docs. So from my drive, if I want to create any type of new document, I'll click on this button that says New, and we can go down here where it says Google Docs, and I'll get a blank, brand new, fresh canvas. Obviously, the first thing that we want to do is give our document a name. So we have now a document with a name and some content in it. And as we go through here, I'm going to do a really high level through all of these examples. I don't want to go too deep just because a lot of them will be familiar from any other editing. So really focusing on the things that are different here and kind of interesting because this is in the cloud as opposed to on your computer. Obviously sharing. So if I wanted to share this with someone, my first option is you can enter any email address and give people access, and you can choose the level of access. So someone can edit, comment, or just view the document. Another thing you can do is just create a link. And so this link means that anyone who I share this link with can view the document or any of these other permissions. So this is kind of like the thing that makes Google Docs special, right? This is the thing that makes it so much easier to use if multiple people are all trying to work together on something. And then going through here, a lot of these are really basic permissions, like making a copy, move to trash. But another interesting thing is version history. So you can imagine if I shared this with the whole Alum Association in New York, lots of people are commenting, making changes, we might lose something that we wanted to keep. There's not going to be much here today because I have done exactly nothing. But if I click down here to the first version, I'll actually see this blank slate with nothing written on it versus this first version with me writing. And as you continue to add things, it will continue to save a snapshot of the document, and you can go back to any version of it or see who made changes. So you'll also see that my name is here. If I shared this with all of you, I could see all of your names associated with any changes that are made, so you can actually have this history of who made changes, and if you have questions or want to revert to one of them, it's as easy as just clicking that button.
Kate,
yes.
Carolyn is just wondering, do the viewers or editors that you are sharing with also have to have a Google account?
So if it's just viewing, no. Anyone can view that URL. If you'd like to make edits, you can actually, there's two different levels. So if I do share, you can make it so that anyone in the whole world can edit your document, but that probably is not what you want. You probably do want it so you need an account to make edits. So I could say anyone on the internet can edit this document, but generally you want to say people, like specific people, have access to edit, just because I've never had a problem with someone accidentally stumbling upon a link, but you never know.
Awesome. That's all the questions I have for right now.
All right. So coming back here, pretty straightforward, like move to trash, version history we just talked about. Download as is important. If you are working on something and you want to share with someone who isn't comfortable using Google Docs, or you want a really final version, you can export this into many different formats, including Microsoft Word, PDF, all sorts of different things. Then if we go over, a lot of these are really basic Word, like text editing. So in the edit menu, we just have cut, copy, paste. In view, we just have screen options and how we view it. I honestly don't use those often. But what gets interesting is in insert, we can do all the things you would expect a Word a text editor to do where we can insert an image. And you can do it either by uploading from your computer or even from a URL on the web, because this is connected to web, or even if you have photos stored in your Google Drive, you can import them here. You can also do things like make a drawing. So we could potentially do some shapes, and the sun seems nice. So we could insert drawings that we make into Google Docs, essentially the same as any type of text editor. If you want to create a chart with data, you can do that, and you can even connect it. We'll get to Sheets is the name for the Google version of Excel. So if you wanted to create a chart from your data that you had in a different Google Excel sheet, essentially, you could do that. Another interesting one is you can create a table. So you can go over here and say, I need a table that is 4 rows and 4 columns, and it'll stick that in there as well. So now we have a very strange looking document, but we could put lots of different information in here. That is my very high level on Docs. An example that might help, because this is obviously not fully fleshed, is meeting minutes that we had for our New York Alum Association. Obviously, don't expect you to speed read this, but what you can see is down here on the side, we had a conversation because we had questions about our budget. So we were able to all not be in the same room, but have a conversation with our treasurer and our VP of membership going back and forth on one of our events and some questions we had about the budget there. And once it's done, the other thing is that you can dismiss this comment, so you can kind of use it as a to-do list. So you could have a meeting, add comments, tag someone, so actually say this is assigned to our treasurer, and then once everything gets resolved, you can just say, like, check, this has been done. So it makes it a really easy way to follow up on, both have your meeting minutes all in one place, as well as all of your follow-ups, and also stay on top of if those follow-ups get done. Because if I check this, an email will get sent to everyone who's mentioned in this comment saying that I said it was complete. So this is an example of how we use it in New York. There's probably many, many other ways that you can be creative and think about how it would benefit you in either planning vacations, coming up with to-do lists, meeting minutes, lots of other things. Any questions about Google Docs before we talk about a different type of tool we've got?
We just have a couple here.
Yeah.
Carol would like to know how you create a folder and how to color code it.
Yes. So here, do you want to do that first?
Yeah, let's do that one first.
Okay. This new button is your friend. So you can do a file upload or a folder, upload of a folder, but you're just going to click folder here. And so I'll say, this is my new folder, and it's right here. And then I'll control click or right click, and I can either rename it, I can share it with all of you, I could get a link so that I could paste it into an email. And here I've got change color. So I think this pink looks nice. And now I have my new pink folder, and it's ready to go. I'm going to click in here. There's nothing there yet. It is ready to be filled with files or new documents or anything like that.
Excellent. And the second question I have is from Miki. She wants to know, can you print directly from Google Docs?
Absolutely. I do not have a printer connected to this computer, but you can either do file, print, all the way at the bottom, or it works with most of the same key commands, shortcuts that you would be used to in Microsoft Office. So if I just do Control P, I'll get my normal print dialog. It's not going to be happy because I don't have a printer here, but it should work all the same.
Fantastic. Those are the only questions I have waiting.
All right. So now that we have gone through Google Docs, our next type of document or tool is Google Sheets. And Google Sheets, as the name suggests, it's a spreadsheet editor. The simile is that it is Microsoft Excel. And in the same way, it's a spreadsheet that is stored in the cloud instead of on an individual computer, so you can use it to collaboratively build a to-do list or a budget or a sign up or track your members. Lots of different things you can do here in a spreadsheet format as opposed to in a Google Doc. And a few Kappa examples of how we've used it are we use this in New York to track our Alumni Association budget. So our treasurer can edit it and give us access to view so we can always see how much money we have left to spend for the year. You can use it to sign up. We've used it for fundraising events where we would create a Google form with all of the donations that we needed, and people could add their name and email next to items that they were willing to contribute. And of course, the example came up of galleys. If you want to download your galleys from the Kappa website, you can open them up in Google Sheets. Depending on how many members live near you, it might be a little slow, but it is certainly doable. And our tour, so if we come back, I'm in my new pink folder. If I want to create a new Google Sheet, I just go to this blue New button, where I'll click on Google Sheets, and that will give me a brand new spreadsheet. And I'll give this a name, and it's ready to go. So all of these controls, you'll notice, are going to start looking very similar because fundamentally the controls on all the Google Sheets are the same. So if I open up File, I can still share this, I can still make a copy, I can still download. This time it has changed to a Microsoft Excel or PDF or all the others, but essentially those are the same. Some of your options around formatting are going to be different, or what you want to insert, because how we use spreadsheets is going to be different than how we use Microsoft Word. But fundamentally, same idea. And across this toolbar here, you should see a lot of tools that are familiar to you in how you are using Excel today. I'm actually going to jump to a template because an empty Excel sheet is very boring. And what's actually really nice is you can create, when you do File, New, you can do from template. And there are tons of different templates for budgets, for resumes, for all sorts of different things. It isn't quite as robust as what exists for Microsoft Office, but there's lots of things there. So this is a wedding budget template. And I thought this was kind of fun because it already exists. Someone has done all this work of formatting, but we can go in and play with it now. So just like in Excel, you can have these different categories of money that we might want to spend, and we can make up whatever amount of money that we're going to spend on this wedding. And if we want to actually figure out how much am I going to spend on apparel total, you can fill in formulas just like in Excel. So I'm just doing a sum of all of these together. Another neat thing you can do is conditional formatting. So what that means is if I accidentally go over my budget, let's say I go over a budget on shoes, because shoes are great. So you can actually, in this format menu, conditional formatting. So what I've said is if, no, not cell is not empty. If my actual spent is greater than my budget, let's make it yellow. We don't want to feel too bad about it. Of course, it's giving me trouble right now, but we'll just say 250. So now my budget actually will tell me you spent more than you thought. But if I then put it down to 250, it gets rid of that formatting. So it's something that you can also do in Excel, but it's a nice tool if you're not familiar with it. And most of the common Excel things are available to you here, including all across the bottom. You can create multiple tabs. You can create models to actually like add together or do math on any of these budget things that you've got together. In addition to all of the tools that you should have available to you with Google Docs. So you can add comments, you can share, you can ask questions, and this is really helpful if you're trying to work through a budget or a to-do list with someone, because you can say, gee, I see that our budget was $250. I thought it was more or less, and have a conversation inside the document. Pause here for questions.
Fantastic. I have a question from Miki. She's
Great.
wondering, is Google Docs the same on a Mac as it is on a PC, or are there different versions?
Yes, that is the beauty of the fact that this lives on Google's computers instead of ours. So when you access it through a browser, it should look identical to you and to me and to everyone else.
And then a question from Erin. She's wondering, given that anyone with editing permission can modify a document, how do you recommend we mitigate the chance that someone accidentally deletes a document?
Good question. So it depends on how you set your permissions. You do not have to give everyone editing access to your document. You can just give them commenting, which means they can add comments and suggestions, but it's up to you to approve them. The other thing is, because you created the document, you'll always have that history and it'll always be available to you. So you could say, gee, what happened to that document, and like restore it. Finally, I don't think people can, I think only the person who created a document can truly put it into the trash. So I think only I could put this budget into the trash. If you were editing it, you could delete everything from it, but I have that version history I could go back to and say, why did all those changes happen, and see who made those changes. So I think a good example of that is if we look at this budget document as an example, you'll see this blue button up at the top where it says View Only. That's because I don't have access to make changes to this document. I can only look at it. So I can see we have $100 budgeted for, gifts for our executive board, but I can't say, like, just kidding, we have $1 million budget, because I haven't been given that permission by the person who owns this. Does that make sense?
And just one last question from Carol. How do you share the document and apply the permissions?
Yep, so if you see this blue button up here, it actually, when I'm hovering on it, it's telling me what the permissions is. So what it's telling me right now is anyone who has the link can access this, but they can only view it. Whereas if I come over to this my wedding budget, it's shared with one person. And if I want to come and share any of these with anyone else, I can click this share button, and it will show me two things. One is it will give me this entry where I can say, I'd like to share this with my friend Katie. She's the president of the Alum Association, so I feel that is a comfortable thing that I can do. Also down here, it tells me who it's already shared with. So I can see I've already shared this with a certain number of people. And when I click on this little pencil, it gives me options. Can Katie edit this document, which means she can make whatever changes she wants? Can she just comment on it, so she can just make suggestions or ask questions, but she can't change the content? Or can she just view? So when we were looking at that budget for the Alum Association, I can just view it. It's informational only, as opposed to I wrote these minutes, so I can make edits to them, and I don't care if other people want to make changes. If I misheard something, that is totally fine. So it's really up to you to think about, do I want people changing the content of this? Do I think that something, I don't want to say something nefarious could happen, but do I think something could happen that I don't want to? Then maybe I just give people viewing access or commenting access. Commenting is pretty safe, because if you don't like the comment that someone makes, you can just delete it. And at any point, you can make a document private, and at any point, you can remove access. So when I click on this, I can either change the fact that I can comment or edit, but I could also say, you know what, Kim's been making nasty comments, we really don't want to allow that, so I'm going to change her permissions. And I'm going to cancel all those people.
Erin is wondering where we can find Google's templates.
Yes, great question. So if you want to, you can do File, New from Template. And if I click on this, it comes up with a template library. This was in Sheets, so it's going to focus on essentially Word documents. And so we've got resume documents, we've got letter templates, we have work like project proposal templates, whatever you may want. And you can also Google. A lot of people this is Google's official, but if you search using any search engine, there are also people who publish templates, and so you can just make a copy. And so what you can do if someone shares something with you that you're like, oh, this is so wonderful, I want to make a copy for yourself, you can just do File, Make a Copy, and then you have your own version of that document that you can make any edits to that you'd like.
Catherine is wondering if you can use Publisher in Google Docs.
I don't believe so, but I don't know. To be honest with you, I believe that Google Docs will support pulling in a Publisher document, and you might be able to, we can check to see if you can export to it, but I haven't tried it.
And Courtney is wondering if only the original user is the only one that can add people to a document.
No. If you have editing access to a document, you can also add new people, but only if you have editing access. So edit is saying like you can do whatever you'd like with this document, including add other people. But if I don't have editing access, or I guess the other example is this budget document is publicly available. So if I click share, all I have access to do is share this link. So I could share this link with you because it's publicly available, but I can't, unless I have full permissions, I can't do anything that the document owner did not want to happen already.
Carol is wondering, can you hide or move the quick access view at the top of the documents?
Quick access view. Oh, on Drive? I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. The reason I don't think so is because I was actually just going to try and hide it for this presentation because you don't need to see my packing list for my vacation, but I was unable to. So generally, I actually find it very helpful. I find that I go back to certain documents very regularly, or they're top of mind, like this Google Docs webinar. I was working on it this week to present it this week, so it's handy. And then as soon as I'm not working on it, it's going to fall off of this quick access area. So no, but I haven't found it too annoying.
Erin is wondering, how do Google Docs compare to Dropbox?
That's a good question. So Google Drive is comparable to Dropbox in that it is the single home for all of your storage and sharing and syncing across many files. But the big difference is that Google Docs is like if you put Microsoft Word and Excel and PowerPoint into Dropbox. So Dropbox has like some access where you can create a text file, but it doesn't have really robust file creation and editing software. So like it doesn't have much by way of creating a brand new PowerPoint presentation and then sharing it with a number of people. So Dropbox, you would upload a file like a PowerPoint presentation or an Excel spreadsheet and share it or get comments from people there. But I think personal opinion is that because Google's been doing the collaboration for longer, they just have a lot more by way of permissions and collaboration tools.
And Joanna just wonders, with Sheets, is it safe to have financial information? My boss is a little nervous about having many individuals' personal info in an online source versus Excel. Is there any chance for information to be stolen?
That's a great question. So I currently work at a bank, and we think a lot about how we take people's financial information seriously and would never want to compromise that. So it really depends on your business or what you're trying to do. We would never ever put someone's personal bank information into an Excel spreadsheet. But our opinion is that Google's going to do a better job of security than we are in terms of physically securing a data center, making sure they don't get hacked. So I don't think the big risk is getting hacked. I think the big risk with Google Docs is access. If someone leaves their computer open, they may get access to your Google Drive. If you, for some reason, your account is compromised, if you get phished, then someone would have access to your drive and then they would have access to that information. So like for work, we do not use it for personal information, but we use it for things that are, I don't know, wouldn't be great if they got out, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. For CAPA, we use it for a lot. For CAPA, we use it for people's emails and phone numbers, but CAPA doesn't have, and I mean CAPA as in like the New York Alum Association, not CAPA National. But we don't have access to people's like financial information or social security number. So it really depends on how securely you are keeping your password and anyone who you're sharing it with is keeping their password. I would argue, though, that the same risk applies to an Excel file that's on your computer. So if someone can get access to your computer, or if that Excel document could be attached to an email and sent out, I think there's similar risks. So certain businesses are more risk averse than others. I would say like the risk is usually one person sending an email to the wrong person or accidentally their account gets hacked, much more than Google creating a different risk profile than Excel does.
And I just have one more quick question. Carol just wants
Yeah.
to know if you can demonstrate how to rename a folder, please.
Yes, absolutely. So in my Google Drive, I have AA new folder, and we're going to give that a better name. So I'm going to control click or right click, and then I have an option called rename, and I'm going to call it new folder. And I'll hit OK. And now I have new folder. And just for fun, we're going to right click again and change my color, and now it is this pretty green. So you can do everything on your folder by right clicking. The other thing you can do is you can just double click and it will open that folder and you can see all the contents inside of it, and you could rename it here as well. So you get that same option, rename. And obviously this is my folder full of Kappa goodness.
I just have one more that just popped in from Terrell. If I move an
Okay.
existing form into a newly created folder, does that change the link Google created for it?
No. So Google knows that you're going to be moving things around. So this link for our drive, or excuse me, our Google Doc that we created, no matter what folder I put it into, the link to this will always stay the same.
Fantastic. We now are done all the questions, Kate.
Okay, no worries. And I think kind of another interesting one is if I can find my folder here. Something interesting is, so I was the secretary of the New York Alum Association last year, and what was really great is I created this folder, and you'll see in sharing, I was able to share in one click all of this stuff with the new incoming secretary. So like meeting minutes, membership directories, anniversary pins, all of that information I was able to share in this way. And if for some reason you wanted to revoke access from someone, you could easily do that all in this one place. And so everything in this folder is shared with that one new person. And if I was to move a new document into this folder, it would automatically just get shared with the same people. So it's a really easy way if you just have, like, my way of keeping organized was that I had this one folder, minutes and everything would always go in here, and then I knew automatically everyone on the Alum Association would have access. All right, so a few other things I wanted to talk through, I know we're getting short on time, is Google Slides. Google Slides is the equivalent of a PowerPoint presentation in Google. So you can create PowerPoints. This is definitely something that is not quite as powerful as PowerPoint is, but because it allows for group editing and it's really lightweight and it comes as a package essentially with Google Docs and Google Sheets, it can be really straightforward and easy to use. Great example of that is I put together everything for the webinar today using Google Slides. So we'll just use that as an example. So this is if you go all the way to the top, this is my Google Slides, and this is how I put together the slides that we're using to talk to today. And again, it comes with the same controls across the top here where I can share this with other people. I can export this as a PowerPoint document if I want to edit it in PowerPoint. I haven't figured out, they absolutely have fun transitions and things like that, but I haven't done a lot of that. And that's all here, so you'll see all the basic PowerPoint pieces there. One thing that I found really fun and had a lot of fun with is obviously if I click new, there's lots of different slide types that I can use here. But they also have some magical formatting. So if I click on Explore down here, it gave me lots of different formats, and all I did was like paste this picture into the slide, and it was like, we can make this beautiful for you. So for putting together an easy presentation or collaborating with other people, it was super simple. And similar to any other presentation software, I have notes down here where I could remember what I'm supposed to say when I'm introducing myself, as well as you can add comments in the same way that you could on any other thing. So if I'm like, this is a weird title, Kate, I could write that comment and share it with the person putting together the presentation. So super simple, and the benefit for the most part is that this presentation lives in my Google Drive with everything else. So it's really become kind of my one-stop shopping for how to create any new content that exists that I need to exist. Any questions quickly on Google Slides?
Yes, Terrell wants to know if you can upload an existing PowerPoint into Google Slides.
That you can. Same caveats apply, like you may lose some transitions if the same transitions are not supported, or you may have, it may not translate perfectly, but you absolutely can.
That's all I have related to Google Slides at the moment.
Okay, so PowerPoints are pretty straightforward. The last big tool that we have for Google is Google Forms. Google Forms is awesome for an alumni association in particular because it allows you to go a step beyond just like what Microsoft offers and create super simple forms online. And again, you can have a group of people all contribute to the content on the form as well as to see what people are responding. So we use this a ton for signups for events. You can use it for surveys. Really kind of anything where you want to collect information from people, you can do through Google Forms. And it's super, super straightforward. This is not a Kappa example, but this is an example from a class I was teaching, is we're asking for presentation feedback. So I was able to very easily add in a question of just like, what's your name? What's your feedback? And the big benefit is that you can see the responses, but that's not helpful if I'm asking for individual people's feedback. If you had a survey, it's really nice because it shows you a distribution of how people are responding. But the best part is I can actually just click this button and I get a Google Sheet that automatically updates with all of the responses from my form. So, and I have this filtered down, but you can actually put together a sign up and have this sheet of all the people who've signed up just automatically. So as new people are filling out the form, their information automatically gets added to this spreadsheet. So when we were doing volunteer signups for our Girls Academy, we were able to track people coming in, and then on the back end even just have a column saying, okay, we followed up with this person, okay, they're confirmed, this is the shift they're going to volunteer for, and all of that. And I think this is a great tool for membership surveys, for tracking RSVPs or volunteer shifts or things like that for alum associations, because it's so simple. You can make this really complex, like you can make it much more than 3 questions. You can make it a survey with multiple pages and make it redirect to the, your website when you're completed with it. But if you want to do something that's really lightweight but not in email so that you don't have to go through lots of email responses, this is awesome. Questions on Google Forms?
Is there a way to connect the form info with a sheet doc, such as a form for new members, into a spreadsheet roster?
Can I clarify, is that you want to put information from Google Sheets into the form, or you want to take input from the form and put it into a Google Sheet?
I believe it's form to sheet. And
yes.
Carol, you can correct me if I'm not right.
Yes. So you can take the responses to this form And when I click on this sheet button, it opens up a sheet with all of the responses in it. So instead of looking at it in this format, which isn't very helpful if you're doing signups or something, you're able to actually literally say, like, these headers on these columns map exactly to the questions in my very brief survey.
Excellent.
So your name, your name.
I just have a generalized question. This isn't specifically related to forms. Courtney is wondering if you can create a desktop icon for certain documents.
I don't believe so. So if we go here, you can view it differently than I have. You can do it in a more of an icon format. So these are folders, and then these are, you can even see that I have the galley here. So these are documents, but I don't think you can edit these. They're just little previews of the content inside the document.
Okay, that's all the questions I have for right now, Kate.
All right. Well, we're so close to the end. But pretty much, I just wanted to let you all know that you can do tons and tons of things in Google Docs, like even more than I have gone through. Those are the 4 primary tools that come with Google Docs. But in the menu, when you click New, you can add apps that will do absolutely anything. So you can, Google Drawings is a tool where you can do simple diagrams. Google Maps is a tool where you can create a map and add your own pins. So if you wanted to set up a road trip or something, even HelloFax allows you to put your signature or fax a document from your Google Drive. So if you want to do something and you think that, you know, there's got to be an app out there or a way that I can just like add a signature to this file, like take a look. When you click on New, it'll say Connect More Apps, and just see what's out there, because there's tons and tons of things that you can do with this, and this is just scratching the surface. But on that note, that is actually the end of everything I have today, and we have just a few minutes left for questions. But if you guys ever have questions or want to know more about how we've done things at the Alum Association here in New York, this is my email, and I'm always happy to chat.
I just have a good piece of information from Chris. She said, in relation to the can you use a desktop icon, Chris said you could save the document as a browser favorite instead of a desktop shortcut, and that would make it a one-button click for you.
Perfect. Yep. Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
And Terrell is wondering, on my page I see my folders. How do I get them in a list like you have rather than the icons listed across the screen?
Yes. So you'll just do the opposite of what I did, this icon. So the annoying thing about Google is that these icons don't mean anything, but if you hover, it tells you what they are. So I view everything in list view. So if you click on this button, it'll shift it back to a list, which I much prefer. But then that icon turned into like these little grid, and you can say grid view. But the one nice thing is, even if you don't understand what all of these icons mean across the top, if you hover, they will literally tell you everything. So you'll start to get used to it. Any other questions?
I have nothing further, ladies. This is the last call for questions that you might have. Oh, Carol has one here. Once you share something that you want to pass off, can you delete it? Or will that mean that the person that you shared it with will lose it as well?
That's a great question. You shouldn't delete it. What you can do is, let's find a thing that's real. What do I own? So if you open the share, and it'll show you who it's shared with in advanced, it says is owner, and there is a way to transfer ownership to someone else so that you can not have it in your drive anymore, but like this person can still have it. How? So that's in owner settings. I have only done this like once, so clearly, but that is what you would do. You would change this is owner to not you, and then you could remove it without actually trashing the document.
And Caroline's just wondering, what happens after you hit 15 gigs of storage?
You can buy more. But if it makes you feel any better, I literally created my Google account in 2006, and I am at 13 gigs of 15 gigs. So it goes a little slower than you think when you're just doing text documents. If you're going to use this for photo sharing, you do have to pay for upgraded storage. But in just like normal creating documents, I haven't hit my limit, and I think I'm a power user.
All right, I think we're at the end of our questions, Kate.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And if you have other questions or thoughts that you think of, that is my info.
Well, thank you so much, Kate, for leading our sessions, and thank you, ladies, to all of you for your participation today. You had amazing questions. If you have any further questions or comments, as Kate said, feel free to email her directly. There's her email up on the screen. As we close the webinar, a survey will open on your screen, and you'll be prompted to respond to a few evaluation questions. Please take a moment to share your thoughts on today's webinar. Your feedback will help us shape future webinar training events. And if you have any additional questions or comments whatsoever, please send an email to education@kkg.org. Thanks again, Kate, and everybody have a wonderful evening.